Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for having me today. As mentioned, my name is Adami, and I'm the Senior Manager of Public Policy at Snapchat here in Washington, D.C. Snapchat is proud to partner, of course, with the Congressional App Challenge and the House of Code event this year, so thank you all so much. Of course, I want to first offer my congratulations to all the winners of this year's Congressional App Challenge. You know, we at Snapchat, we are deeply impressed by the innovative ways that you all have used technology to address the important issues of the day. You know, learning to code is more than just acquiring a new skill. It's about developing a fresh perspective and transforming ideas into reality. The Congressional App Challenge allows you to showcase your ideas and share your solutions with your peers, your family, and more importantly, your wider community. At Snapchat, we're dedicated to empowering students just like you to enhance their coding skills and pursue degrees in computer science. And we are deeply committed to supporting and advancing educational initiatives that facilitate diverse STEM learning experiences. Of course, now it is my privilege to introduce this year's co-chair, Congressman Ted Lieu. Congressman Lieu represents California's 36th Congressional District, including Santa Monica, the headquarters of Snapchat, so a point of privilege there. He sits on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee, and he was also just appointed as a co-chair to the newly formed Bipartisan Task Force on Artificial Intelligence. Congressman Lieu holds a computer science and political science degrees from Stanford University, has an education in the nuances of both tech policy and the industry itself, and has, of course, been a long-standing advocate for the Congressional App Challenge. Please join me in welcoming Congressman Ted Lieu.
Good afternoon. I'm so honored to be here, and thank you, Blake, for that introduction. I'm pleased that Snapchat is headquartered in my district. And thank you all for being here and for your families, for supporting you. The apps that we've seen were amazing, and just so thrilled we had this much talent across America. I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about artificial intelligence. I'm a recovering computer science major, and when I was getting my degree, we made fun of people that worked on neural networks. I'm like, oh, that's never gonna work. Well, guess what? It started working. And not only did it work, it has exceeded expectations in a dramatic way. So I'm gonna talk to you about three factors that, to me, make generative artificial intelligence qualitatively different than past advancements. First is the pace of change is remarkable. So OpenAI basically shocked the world when they released ChatGPT a year and a half ago. And people around the world were like, whoa, this thing here can answer my question in perfectly sounding French paragraphs or English sentences, and I can ask it a question about why the Battle of Midway was so important in World War II, and it gives me an entire essay that I then turn into my history teacher. That was simply text to text, right? You put in some text questions, it responds to you. In less than a year and a half, we now have text to video. So if some of you may have seen the Sora app that's being developed, there's other companies working on text to video where you can say, hey, I want to see a red convertible going down 1950 Street in autumn around dawn, and then there'll be this exact video of a red convertible going down a 1950 Street around dawn. You can then do the reverse. There's video to text. You can show some of these large language models video, and then it will tell you what's happening in that video or that image. And now we have text to some basic programming. I'd say about, or if you look at what experts say, they're thinking maybe about 2 years or so, you're gonna have text to complicated programming. So what does this world look like when you have 1 billion people that with just a few prompts on their phone can write an app? So first of all, I'm gonna next year ask them to restructure this to be the Congressional AI Challenge, because AI will write apps. They will write what you wrote, essentially. So AI is just going to do that, and that's how quickly this is advancing. Second sort of fact that makes it a little different is, let's say you wanted, so there's this, so if you all know Bill Gates, and he did remarkable things. He also happened to be in a situation where he had access to a supercomputer growing up. Very few people actually had that kind of access. With generative AI, billions of people across the world have access to some of the most advanced AI technology literally for free, right? So you could go look at Google's Gemini or Microsoft's Bing or, ChatGPT, but so could a person sitting in Nigeria or in China or in Australia. And so also all these people around the world have this amazingly powerful tool. So you are now going to be competing with billions of people worldwide that have the same access to these tools that you do. And the third thing that I want you all to know sort of about this artificial intelligence, we don't know exactly what professions will be impacted. And the reason we don't know that is because what it's going to do is essentially make a lot of human tasks more efficient or just outright eliminate those tasks. But it's not going to do it in sort of the programming sort of STEM area. So I'll give you an example. I think very few of us, maybe none of us here, actually know how to create Microsoft Word, how we program word processing. But it didn't matter, because what happened is one day we're given Microsoft Word, and we're like, oh, this thing's sort of cool. You can do spell check. You can format paragraphs. You can drop endnotes and footnotes. And then over time, we saw less secretaries. But no one needed to know anything about how to program a word processor or the technical details of that. And that's how AI is going to work. 99.9% of people are going to experience AI in the form of a product. And that product will make their home life better or not, their work life better or not. If it doesn't, they won't use it. If it does, they will use it. And that also gives a lot of people who have no STEM degrees, no technical knowledge, the ability to then use that product to advance. So let's go back to this word processor example. You know who it really helped? For example, it probably helped people that weren't good at spelling. All of a sudden, it didn't really matter anymore that you weren't good at spelling, right? And so it's hard for us to know what professions are going to be impacted. But we do know that software programmers are going to be impacted. So literally what you all just did, which is really amazing, I'm very glad you did it. You all probably should change that path, because AI is going to write the code for you. So I just want you all to understand that. And now, there will be some people that will do coding for specifically AI, and that's still going to be important, but there's going to be a lot less folks that do that. And then you'll be in greater competition, because then only the best folks in this small field will be taken. So I just want you all to understand that what you did is amazing, and the world is changing. If you have that mindset, you're going to do well in the future, which is a future that's really hard to predict. So in Congress, I'm honored to have been selected as co-chair of the Bipartisan AI Task Force. We're working on, look, how do we make sure we harness the innovation from AI and then support guardrails on it to make sure it doesn't harm us. So I'm just going to talk to you briefly a little bit about how this technology works. So you imagine you have a picture of a black and white cat. And the way a computer sees it is, let's say it's 1,000 pixels. That's either, black or white, on or off. And then you imagine a 3D version of that cat, a grid of pixels. And then you imagine a whole array of those pixels, an array upon array of all those pixels. So it's a lot of pixels, and they're all connected. And each of those connections has a number. And at the beginning, it's all randomized. And you give this algorithm a picture of a cat. And it says, that's not a cat. And you're like, you're wrong. So then the algorithm changes some of these numbers through basically a linear algebra function. And then you give it a second picture of a cat. And it says, it's not a cat. And you're like, you're wrong again. It changes some more of these numbers. You give it a third picture of a cat. It says, this is a cat. And you're like, yes, you're right. Changes some more numbers. You do this 10 million times, and the algorithm figures out what is a cat and what's not a cat. Two things you should know about this. At a very fundamental level, we don't know what's going on. We can't actually explain, how does this algorithm go from point A to, this is a cat? we can't trace it. It's a traceability problem. So we don't really know at a very fundamental level what pattern it's recognizing. So I'll give you an example. There's a famous example of these researchers who are trying to figure out, can we use AI to tell if you got tuberculosis from X-ray scans? Because if you could, you probably need less radiologists. So they were doing this. It looked really good in development. They deployed it. It totally failed. And they realized, as they did auditing and went backwards they realized what was happening is this AI algorithm was simply detecting, hey, am I getting an X-ray scan from a newer machine or an older machine? Because it turns out that people who got tuberculosis tended not to be in places where they had newer X-ray machines. They tend to be in poorer communities and places where they didn't have newer X-ray machines. But they didn't know what pattern this AI was detecting, because these algorithms are so complicated, so many data points, that we can't trace it or explain to you what exactly is going on. Second thing you should know is these large language models are not designed to seek the truth. They're designed to give the most popular response to your query. That's why when you use ChatGPT or Microsoft's Bing or Google's Gemini or Meta has an open source Llama 2 and so on, sometimes you'll ask a query and it'll give you an amazing paragraph that's grammatically correct and totally bonkers, off the wall false. There's a technical term in industry for this, it's called hallucination. It is very hard to fix. It's inherent in the technology because AI doesn't fundamentally understand the meaning of a sentence. It just knows, hey, I've seen this sentence in very many places. It's probably responsive to your query. I'm going to give you that sentence. So I want you to sort of also understand the limits of AI. And look, if you're doing art or if you're doing a lot of different use applications, maybe it's okay if the AI doesn't get it right all the time. But there are certain use cases where you cannot have it hallucinate, such as you cannot have AI control nuclear weapons and hallucinate, right? That cannot happen. So I have introduced legislation that's bipartisan that basically says we can never let AI control a nuclear weapon by itself. No matter how amazing AI gets, there always has to be a human in the loop. So you all might want to think about what use cases do we want with AI where we require some sort of human supervision. Same thing right in the medical field. AI is going to do amazing things. We know, for example, that it takes about 4 years or more for a person getting a PhD in protein folding to explain how we fold one human protein. Well, AI has basically now folded out 200-some million proteins known to humankind and given it to medical researchers. So you're going to see some advancements there. At the same time, right, you can't have AI filling medical prescriptions knowing that sometimes it hallucinates, right? That cannot happen. You cannot have someone get a wrong dosage or a completely bonkers medical prescription. So again, it's important to think about the limits of AI. Even though it can do amazing things, what use cases do we say we're not going to let it ever do it, or if it's going to do it, we're going to require a human being to be there. So there are some things that we're thinking about in Congress. Again, it's amazing what you all did, and I want to highlight the winner from my district. It is Sarah Varghese, and she's with us today, and her app is called Lost It, Located. It's a lost and found app for the visually impaired. So thank you all for being here, and look forward to seeing all of you do great things in the future.